Helmet test in 1912. If this helmet had failed the test, what choice would WWII soldiers have had? World War I, soldiers honor the horses, mules, and donkeys that died in the war. Approximately 8 million horses died in the war. They fought and suffered as much as humans. Queen Genenpil is the last queen of Mongolia. A story of struggle, betrayal, and power. The last queen of Mongolia that few people know about. The eruption of Mount Vesuvius in 1944. During the Second World War, Vesuvius erupted again, as if one war wasn't enough. An engineer plugs in a primitive IBM computer in 1958. This room-sized monster was not as powerful as the old calculators, but it did perform scientific research. San Francisco's famous Cliff House before the 1907 fire looked like the setting for a horror movie, then disappeared in a fire. A young Brazilian woman refuses to shake hands with military dictator João Figueiredo. 1979. A simple handshake could have meant submission, but she chose otherwise. Annie Oakley is a gunfighter. 1899. A legend of the Wild West. She shot more accurately than Army instructors and could put out a candle with one shot. Steven Spielberg sits in a mechanical shark. At this point, he probably already knew he was making one of the scariest shark movies ever made. Casting for the role of a black cat in a movie based on Edgar Allan Poe, 1961. A choice between mysticism and superstition. Which cat proved to be the most sinister? A female samurai, 19th century. Not only men wielded the katana, a story of forgotten warriors. The building of the Eiffel Tower. Parisians hated it, calling it metal ugliness, but eventually changed their minds. Marathon runners at the first Olympic Games in Athens, Greece, 1896. No sneakers, no water, no gadgets. A true test of human endurance. Queen Elizabeth carries Prince Charles and Princess Anne. 1957. When the Queen is not just a symbol of power, but a regular mom behind the wheel. Marilyn Monroe looks into a distorted mirror. Even in her distorted reflection, she remains a style icon. The Pamir is the last commercial sailing ship in the world. 1969. While everyone else was switching to diesel, he held on to the past. Measuring a swimsuit. The fine for a swimsuit that was too short. At the time, it was considered a scandal, but now it's the norm. An outdoor hockey game in Sweden. 1959. The game had to be postponed due to abnormal weather. Nature decided to intervene in the game. The last sword fight in France. 1967. In the days of nuclear weapons, two men resolved the conflict according to the laws of the 17th century. Niagara Falls is frozen. Nature sometimes pauses, and it's one of the rarest spectacles. Charlie Chaplin and Albert Einstein. When the genius of science meets the genius of comedy. 25-year-old Joe Biden, 1967. Young, ambitious, had no idea he would become president. A boy sees his first television. Today, kids are born with smartphones, but back then, television seemed like something out of science fiction. Arnold Schwarzenegger first appears in New York, 1968. He doesn't know yet that he will conquer Hollywood and politics. A young Bill Clinton and John F. Kennedy. The future and the present in a single image. Ernest Hemingway's passport photo. 1923. The expression of a man who has lived more than most of us do in a lifetime. A German prisoner of World War II reunited with his daughter. First hug after 12 years. Acrobats balancing on top of the Empire State Building. One step to the side and the shot becomes the last of their lives. New York Central Station, 1929. An era of steam engines, luxury trains, and crazy architecture. Women boxing on a rooftop. 1938. Equality is not in words, but in gloves. Photographer over the Berlin sky. 1912. For the sake of a good shot, he balances between life and death. Description was lost. Women leaving a polling station in London. 1929. The moment their vote began to mean more than just words. Anti-British propaganda in Japan. 1941. History is always written from different perspectives. A policeman directing traffic in London, 1952. Today he would only get a traffic light. Selfies of Tsar Nicholas II. When even emperors couldn't resist the lure of self-portraiture. Stephen Hawking with his wife Jane Wilde. The love and intelligence that changed the way we think about life. Bill Gates arrested for driving without a license. 1977, but he was able to develop Windows without a license. Undercover cop, Brooklyn, 1969. His face says, "I'm definitely not a cop." A Red Cross nurse records a mortally wounded soldier's last words. 1917. A story that will never make it into textbooks, but will forever be remembered. The oldest photograph of the Great Sphinx of Giza. The Sphinx was there long before we were, and it will be there long after. A Hardy Farm Life, 1951. When the only problem is what cake to bake today. Bruce Lee dancing. Martial arts is also the art of movement. Annette Kellerman fights for the right to wear tight leotards. 1907. Then a scandal. Today, standard. Pablo Picasso and Brigitte Bardot. 1956. When art meets beauty. Statue of Liberty, 1884. When the great gift had not yet been unwrapped. 100,000 Iranian women rally against compulsory hijab. 1979. A struggle for freedom that is still going on today. Treatment of a young girl's spine. When medicine looked scary, but it worked. Headless portraits became a popular photographic genre and remained in vogue until the 1910s. Fashionable then, nightmarish today. The work of British photographer Samuel K. Balbirnie from Brighton. A shot that was commonplace at the time but is now history.